Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council was a maw of manufactured twilight, its walls lost in a perpetual starless dusk. Within its impossible vastness, representatives from 73 species floated in designated pods, their altitudes a precise cartography of cosmic status. The air itself vibrated, not with sound, but with the eerie hum of translation fields, weaving the cacophony of clicks, whistles, and subsonic growls into a tapestry of coherent, chilling understanding. And at the center of that cavernous floor, a solitary, fragile figure stood. Ambassador Sarah Chen, a speck of humanity in simple grey, her chin lifted against the weight of a galaxy's condescension. Around her, the leviathans of star-spanning civilizations shifted with barely concealed amusement. Their laughter, translated from screeches, mandible clicks, and bioluminescent pulses, a wave of dismissive mockery. She had just delivered Earth's decree. A declaration so audacious, so seemingly naive, that it hung in the air not as a threat, but as a punchline. Like, subscribe, share, and comment below. What would you do if the whole galaxy laughed at your warning? Clarify this absurdity. Speaker Tom Van's three-part beak clacked, the Varian equivalent of a derisive smirk. Your species, who stumbled upon faster-than-light travel a mere 80 of your years ago, now claims exclusive dominion over a sphere of space 50 light-years across, a cosmic keep-out sign around your cradle. Chen's voice was a blade of calm, cutting through the ambient scorn. That is correct. And you expect the empires who have plied the stellar winds for millennia, the Zytherans with their 47 systems, the Marin Collective spanning 300 worlds, to honor this nursery boundary? Tom Van's tone left no doubt. This was the punchline before the lesson. We expect all species to respect it, Chen replied. The chamber erupted. The translation fields stammered, overwhelmed by the torrent of disbelief, outrage, and guttural amusement. It was a symphony of contempt. Chen did not flinch. She stood, hands clasped behind her back, a statue of resolve in the storm, waiting for the tempest of their arrogance to spend itself. Finally, Tom Van gestured for silence. Ambassador Chen, he sighed, the amusement now tinged with paternalistic pity. Your species controls 12 colonies. 12. The youngest species here besides your own has 6 centuries of starfaring history. What possible justification could you have? We are not justifying. We are informing. The words were quiet, yet they carried. There is a difference. A new voice rumbled through the chamber, a sound like continents grinding together. It came from the Zytherin pod, a monolithic platform housing a being of armored might. High Commander Velkoff leaned forward, his 4 powerful arms braced against the console, his hide the color of volcanic rock. Informing, he boomed, or threatening? All sensory organs turned to him. The Zytherins were conquerors. Their empire was a monument built from shattered fleets and subjugated worlds. A challenge was not a diplomatic incident. It was an invitation to a demonstration. We are establishing a boundary, Chen said, turning to meet the glare of his holographic projection. We ask that all species respect it. Ask? Mandibles spread in a predator's grin. You demand. You stand before the elders of the galaxy and claim a kingdom. And you expect compliance. Yes, Chen said. the simplicity of the word a weapon. Velkoff's laughter was the sound of crushing stone. And if we refuse, will your 12 colonies wage war against the stars? We hope it does not come to that. Hope? Velkoff rose to his full, imposing height. Let me educate your hope, human. The Zitharan Empire has shattered fleets 10 times the size of your entire navy. We have devoured species with technology that would seem like magic to you. And you think you can dictate our passage? Commander, Chen said, her gaze unwavering, I would strongly advise. Advise? You advise me? The roar was physical, vibrating through the pods. The primary trade route between our space and the outer rim passes directly through your imaginary zone. It has flowed for 3,000 years. Will we reroute because a child with a fusion torch asks politely? The route can be adjusted. A minor detour. 6 days. Compared to what? Velkoff's forearms spread wide, encompassing the chamber, the galaxy itself. Compared to the insult of bending to your will. No. In 3 of your months, the Zytheran trade fleet will pass through the heart of your so-called exclusion zone. If you wish to object, he leaned in, his image swallowing the screen. I welcome the lesson it will provide your species. His transmission severed, his pod going dark as a tomb. A chilling silence followed, broken only by the whispers of 100 translators. Tom Van looked at Chen, his earlier amusement replaced by grim formality. The Council cannot control sovereign empires. If the Zytherans cross your line, we will not intervene. But be warned, any hostile action from you will be considered an act of war. You will stand alone. We understand, Chen said. Do you? A softer, ancient voice emanated from a high pod. Ambassador Creel of the Vorten Collective, a being who had witnessed the birth and death of sons. Her wise, wrinkled face was etched with concern. Child, Velkoff does not bluff. His fleet will be 200 warships. Your navy numbers perhaps 40, with primitive shields and weapons. I have seen pride obliterate wiser species. Withdraw your declaration. Offer concessions. Survive. Chen shook her head. A slow, sorrowful movement. We will not withdraw. Then your people will die, Creel stated, not with malice, but with the cold certainty of astronomy. For 10,000 years, Chen said, her voice changing, gaining a texture of weariness that silenced the chamber anew. We fought ourselves. We created tools to poison our sky, boil our oceans, crack our world's crust. We pointed weapons of ultimate destruction at our own cities. We came to the brink of extinction. And then, finally, we chose to stop. She looked around, not at empires, but at the ghosts of humanity's own past. We unified. We looked to the stars with hope. And in 80 years, we have been invaded twice. Our ships have been seized. Our colonies shaken down for protection by those who see us as weak, as prey. The weariness hardened into something adamantine. We are tired. We are tired of being tested. We are tired of being seen as a target. So we are drawing a line, a clear, bright line in the dark. And we are telling the galaxy, as politely as we know how, do not cross it. Or what? Velkoff's voice returned, his pod lighting up once more. He had been listening. What will you do? Your weapons are pitiful. Your shields, tissue. What threat do you pose? Chen turned for her final word, her eyes, holding the image of the conqueror. We told you what we want. We told you where the line is. We told you the consequence of crossing it. She paused, and her next words fell into the silent chamber with the finality of a vault door sealing. Do not say you were not warned. She bowed to Tom Van and walked toward the exit, her footsteps the only sound in the universe. Pathetic, Velkov spat. 3 months, human. 3 months, and your fantasy ends. Chen stopped at the great door. She did not turn. 3 months, she agreed softly. Then she was gone. In the echoing silence, one last voice rose. Ambassador Yolin of the peaceful Corvin Dominion. I have studied humans, he said, urgency threading his calm. It is my life's work. They are a species that spent 90% of their history perfecting the art of war against themselves. They invent horrors, then lock them away. Commander Velkov, when a human warns you, it is not a negotiation. It is because they have already prepared for what happens after the warning is ignored. It is their nature. They do not bluff. Velkov's laughter was a dismissive blast. Let them prepare. I look forward to seeing their preparations. Perhaps they have painted their ships of frightening color. The session ended. The pods dispersed. The galaxy had chosen its sides. In 3 months, a fleet would sail, and a line would be crossed. Deep in the cold interstellar dark, far from the Council's artificial twilight, the Zetheran Armada assembled. It was not a trade fleet. It was a hammer. 300 warships converged at the rally point, a constellation of forged malice and arrogant pride. Their running lights bled into a false galaxy, outshining the ancient, distant stars behind them. Each vessel was a mountain of weaponized alloy, armor plating thick enough to shrug off planetary bombardment, carrying firepower sufficient to scar a world. This was Velkov's statement, written across the void in steel and wrath. On the bridge of the flagship, Dominant Will, High Commander Velkov surveyed his creation. The holographic tactical display glowed with 300 green icons, a symphony of invincibility. Pride, hot and fierce, swelled within him. This was not about trade routes. This was pedagogy. The lesson would be delivered in plasma and ruin, echoing through the galactic annals for centuries. All ships report ready, Commander, his tactical officer announced. Open a fleet-wide channel, Velkov commanded, settling into his command throne. I want the whole of this region to hear. As the channel hissed open, his voice dropped into the formal, resonant register used for imperial decrees. This is High Commander Velkov of the Zetheran Empire. To all vessels and settlements within range, witness the fleet before you. We proceed now along our ancestral route, through the space the human species has foolishly claimed. We demonstrate a singular truth. The young do not dictate to their elders. The Empire goes where it wishes. Any interference will be met with absolute force. This is not a threat, it is reality. The transmission cut. The fleet moved as one. A beautiful, terrifying ballet of precision, accelerating toward the invisible line humanity had drawn. The journey to the boundary was a quiet parade of power. Velkov reviewed deployment patterns, savoring the anticipation. He half hoped the humans would be foolish enough to appear. A quick, brutal victory would be a more potent lesson than a mere uncontested passage. Commander, the sensor officer called as the boundary coordinates neared. Approaching the human demarcation. Scanners show nothing. No ships, no platforms, empty space. A smirk touched Velkoth's mandibles. Satisfaction, edged with a flicker of disappointment. So it is a bluff. They have nothing but words. Continue. Record the exact moment of crossing for the historical log. The fleet passed the imaginary line. Space, indifferent and eternal, looked no different. The stars did not rearrange themselves. No cosmic alarms sounded. The exclusion zone was just space. Velkoth's smirk widened. Maintain course. Estimated transit time? 8 days, Commander. Initiate continuous scanner sweeps. I want to know if so much as a human probe flickers. The first hours were a study in monotony. The fleet was a perfectly ordered machine, plunging deeper into the silent territory. Then, a contact. Single vessel, Commander. Small. Human fusion signature. Design suggests a research ship. Unshielded. A research vessel? Velkoth's mandibles tightened in amused contempt. Hail them. The screen resolved to show a cramped bridge. A human woman stood at its center. Her face etched with a profound, weary resolve. This is Captain Maria Torres, of the research vessel Cassandra. You are in violation of Earth's exclusion zone. Turn back now. This is your final warning. Velkoth stared. Then a low chuckle built in his chest, echoed by his bridge crew. Your final warning? He repeated. Captain, look upon the storm around you. 300 warships. And you, in your tin can, issue warnings. Torres nodded, her eyes holding a sadness so deep it gave Velkoth a momentary pause. I see them. They are impressive. Please, Commander, turn back. Take the long way. It's 6 days. A small price. The only price paid today will be for your arrogance, Velkoth growled. Move your ship, or we will move it for you. Torres closed her eyes. When she opened them, the sadness was still there, but beneath it lay an absolute, chilling acceptance. Then I'm sorry. I'm sorry we couldn't convince you. I'm sorry for what's going to happen. My crew and I, we volunteered. We drew straws to see who would get to be the last voice you heard. The last warning. I won. A cold finger traced Velkoth's spine. Her calm was unnatural. 10 seconds, he barked, pushing the unease aside. Our families know. They're proud. We all left messages. Mine said, fire. A lance of plasma tore through the void. The Cassandra vanished in a silent blossom of light and vapor. Silence reclaimed the bridge. The satisfaction Velkoth expected was absent, replaced by a hollow echo of Torres's words. I'm sorry for what's going to happen. She had spoken like an attendant at a funeral. His own. Resume course, he ordered, his voice quieter than he intended. The fleet sailed on, leaving the expanding cloud of atoms that had been a ship and its crew. Hours bled into one another. Then a subtle wrongness began to seep into the mighty armada. Commander, the sensor officer reported, uncertainty in her voice. Spatial readings, fluctuations, like ripples in space-time itself. Weak, but they're moving with us, matching our speed. Natural gravitic distortion, Velkoth asserted, a statement more than a question. Perhaps, but it's on every ship's sensors, across all 300 vessels. Then the glitches began, minor at first. A navigation system hiccuped. A power relay flickered. Communications between ships developed a lag of milliseconds. Individually, they were nothing. Together, They were the first whispers of a creeping dread. "Commander, the destroyer Relentless has gone silent. No response to hails. Sensors show her intact. In formation, but silent. Jamming? None detected. The channel is clear. They are simply not answering." The cold feeling in Velkov's chest, born with Torres's apology, began to spread. He ordered visual checks. 2 more destroyers, Iron Fang and Stormbreaker, moved to investigate. Their last transmission was a routine approach signal. Then they too fell silent. On the tactical display, 3 green icons now moved with mindless, perfect precision, pulling ahead of the fleet that had come to a halt on his order. "They're not stopping, Commander. They're leaving." Velkov watched, a stone of ice forming in his gut, as the 3 vessels receded into the blackness, maintaining their speed and heading with automaton-like perfection. "Track them! They're fading from sensors. Sir, they're gone. Not destroyed, gone. No debris, no energy signature, just empty space where they should be." A wave of palpable unease washed over the bridge. Velkoth roared orders for sensor sweeps, for probes, for answers. They found nothing. 3 capital ships and 600 souls had been erased from reality, as cleanly as a chalk mark from slate. And then the whispers started. Not over comms, but among the crew. A feeling of being watched from the empty spaces between the stars. The spatial ripples on the sensors grew stronger, now visible as faint, ethereal shimmering at the edge of perception. Space itself felt alive and hostile. The disappearances began in earnest. Not just ships on the periphery. A frigate in the heart of the formation winked out. A cruiser 2 points off the port flank vanished. No explosion, no struggle, no time to scream. One moment, a mighty instrument of war. The next, an abstract memory. The tactical display updated with cold, digital indifference. The green icons blinking away one by one. "Fleet count stands at 253, Commander." Velkoth stood rooted, watching the numbers fall. This was not battle. It was consumption. Something was eating his fleet, and they couldn't shoot it, couldn't outrun it, couldn't even see it. "Navigation! Plot a jump out of this region, anywhere." The officer's face was ashen. "I've tried, Commander. Every calculation. The vectors curve back inward. It's as if space is warped here, folding us toward the center. We cannot jump out. We are trapped." The word hung in the recycled air. Trapped. "Then we go back the way we came. Sublight. Ships that have attempted to reverse course. They disappear faster, sir. It's like moving backward triggers it." Panic, a feral, unfamiliar beast, clawed at Velkov's mind. They could only move forward, deeper into the trap. He was leading his entire fleet into a gullet they couldn't see. And then the horror reached inside the ships. Reports flooded in, each more chilling than the last. Crew members vanishing from sealed corridors. Security teams entering darkened sections of their own ships and never returning. The sections found utterly empty, as if never occupied. Some ships reported ghostly screams over internal comms, cries that spoke of being lost in wrong places, before cutting to static. The mighty Iron Storm, a battleship with a crew of 800, was found drifting, fully powered, perfectly intact, and completely vacant. A ghost ship sailing a sea of stars. A boarding party sent to claim it disappeared the moment they crossed its airlock threshold. Velkoff's mighty armada was being dismantled, not with violence, but with a terrifying, surgical precision. He was no longer a commander. He was a curator of a dying museum. Fleet count? His voice was a rasp. 120 vessels, Commander. Rate of loss is accelerating. He turned to communications. A broken emperor. Open a channel to the humans. Broadcast on all frequencies. Tell them we surrender. We acknowledge their zone. We will pay any price. We beg. Tell them to make it stop. The pleas went out into the silent dark. They received no reply. Only the steady, relentless subtraction of his fleet continued. Then a transmission. Not from the humans, but from his own flagship sensors, now tuned across the full spectrum. The sensor officer had finally visualized the hunter. Commander, you need to see this. The display shifted. Before, there had been nothing. Now Velkoff saw the truth. A web. An impossibly vast, galaxy-spanning web of faint, shimmering threads, visible only in exotic radiation bands. It enveloped the entire fleet. Thin, ethereal filaments connected to every single one of his remaining ships. And as he watched in petrified horror, the recording showed a destroyer, its thread suddenly glowing with intense, hungry light. The ship's geometry twisted, folded in upon itself in ways that violated the eye and the mind, and then it was simply not. The thread faded, sated. It's a field, the officer whispered, terror stripping her voice to a child's register. A network woven through space itself, and it's feeding. Velkoff finally understood Captain Torres's sadness. He understood Ambassador Yolin's warning. They do not bluff. The humans hadn't built a navy to fight theirs. They had built a cage made of corrupted physics. They had weaponized reality. His fleet wasn't fighting an enemy. It was being unmade by the universe. A new alert chimed, pitifully normal amidst the nightmare. An incoming transmission. Human frequency. With trembling hands, the communications officer put it on screen. No face appeared. Only text, white on black, stark and final. You were warned. The 3 words hung on the screen, a monument to his arrogance. Velkoff stared, the last of his command crumbling around him. He had led 500,000 souls into the gullet of a monster they couldn't comprehend, all to prove a point that was now being erased from existence. He opened a channel to his few remaining ships, his voice hollow, the voice of a ghost already dead. This is Velkoff. We cannot escape. We cannot fight. We ignored the warning. May whatever gods you believe in have mercy on your souls. For the Empire. He cut the channel. On the sensor display, the web around the dominant wheel began to pulse, its light growing brighter, hungry and final. The last thing High Commander Velkoff of the Zithiran Empire saw was not the enemy he had longed to crush, but the cold, elegant threads of a spider that had caught a fleet of flies. Silence, in the Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council, had a new texture. It was not the quiet of order or contemplation, but the dense, suffocating hush that follows a world-shattering blast. The air, once humming with the busy work of 1,000 civilizations, now felt frozen, the translation fields almost hesitant to process the sheer, unthinkable weight of the truth that had just been spoken. 2 weeks. That was all it had taken. 2 weeks since the Zithiran Armada. 300 warships strong, had sailed into human space. 2 weeks of silence, of mounting dread, of frantic, fruitless scans that revealed nothing but empty space where a mighty fleet should have been. And now, Ambassador Sarah Chen stood once more in the chamber's heart, a solitary figure in grey. She offered no grand spectacle, no triumphant posture. Her calm was tectonic, unyielding. She had just uttered the words that would redefine the galaxy. The fleet was eliminated. The chamber did not erupt. It convulsed. A visceral, organic roar of outrage, terror, and primal disbelief tore through the pods. Screeches, bellows, clicks of panic, all rendered into a chorus of galactic horror. Speaker Tom Van's 3-part beak clacked uselessly for order, a feeble sound against the tidal wave of reaction. From the Zytheran pod, Acting Commander Veshkau rose, his armored scales dark with grief, and a rage so profound it seemed to warp the light around him. 500,000! The translation field strained with the raw anguish in his voice. 500,000 souls vanished, and you stand there. You admit it. Chen turned to face him, her gaze not defiant, but impossibly steady. Yes, I am sorry for your loss, Commander. Truly. But your people were warned. At this council, at the boundary, by a research vessel that your commander destroyed. The consequences of ignoring those warnings are his responsibility, and yours. You murdered them. We defended our territory, Chen corrected, the words precise, surgical. The difference is not semantic, it is fundamental. It was Ambassador Creel, ancient and solemn, who pierced the chaos with a question that hung like a blade over every consciousness. How, Ambassador Chen? How did you eliminate 300 capital ships without a trace? No debris, no escape pods, no residual radiation. It is as if they were unmade. Chen seemed to weigh the fate of worlds in the pause that followed. If we explain, she said finally, we share our most guarded secrets. But given the circumstances, she activated a device. Above her, holograms bloomed, complex, shimmering models of twisted spacetime, equations that hurt to look at, schematics of something that resembled a malignant, beautiful neural network woven through the stars. Before Earth unified, she began, her voice a lecturer's in a tomb, we developed theoretical weapons, tools to manipulate the fabric of reality itself. We deemed them monstrous. We buried the research. She gestured to the holograms. When we looked to the stars and saw a galaxy of predators, we unearthed it. We spent 60 years perfecting it, 20 years building it. We call it the exclusion net. The hologram zoomed into the map of their claimed space. 50 points of cold light ignited, distributed in a complex, three-dimensional lattice. 50 autonomous platforms. They generate overlapping fields that warp local spacetime into a filter, an intelligent mesh. When unauthorized vessels enter, the net activates. It does not destroy. It isolates. She let the horror of the euphemism sink in. The ships are folded, compressed into sealed pocket dimensions, quantum bubbles severed from our universe. From our perspective, they cease to exist. They are not here. They are elsewhere. In a place without time, without physics, without sensation. The silence returned, deeper and more terrified than before. This was not warfare. It was ontology. It was taking the concept of enemy and erasing it from the ledger of existence. Eternal torment, Veshkal screamed. No, Chen said, and for the first time, a flicker of something like pity crossed her features. They feel nothing. Time does not pass. It is stasis. A ending without a death. A containment without a jailer. Can they be retrieved? Creel asked, the historian in her seeking even a thread of hope. Theoretically, yes. If the net were deactivated, the fields would collapse, returning anything trapped within to normal space. Chen's expression hardened. We have no intention of deactivating it. They were lost the moment your commander decided our warning was a bluff. He gambled the lives of his fleet on his arrogance. He lost. Tom Van found his voice, thin and reedy. By revealing this, do you not fear others will replicate it? That you have begun an arms race of unraveling reality? A cold, thin smile touched Chen's lips. It was the most frightening expression she had yet shown. Let them try. The physics required took us centuries of self-destruction to grasp. It would take you millennia. And by then, she said, the smile fading, we will have moved on. The net is a first-generation tool. We are already building the second. She let the implication hang, a sword over every civilization in the room. But more than that, she continued, her gaze sweeping the silent, stunned representatives. We hope you do not try. We hope this is the last warning we ever have to give. Earth has boundaries. They are absolute. Cross them and you will not fight us. You will fight the laws of physics themselves, and you will lose. This is not a threat. It is a cosmological fact. Veshkal seethed, a volcano of impotent fury. And if this council votes to sanction you, to demand you dismantle this abomination, Chen's response was immediate, absolute, and it severed the last tether of the old galactic order. Then we will politely decline, withdraw from this council, seal our borders, and have no further contact with galactic civilization. We survived 10,000 years alone on one world. We can survive 10,000 more alone in one star system. We came hoping for friends. We found a jungle. So we became the fire that keeps the predators at bay. The choice of what happens next is not ours. It is yours. With a final, slight bow, she turned and walked out. Her footsteps echoed in a silence that was no longer just shock, but the birth of a new, terrifying understanding. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy changed in its bones. The mighty Zithiran Empire, its spine of military pride, shattered. Imploded. 47 star systems shook off the imperial yoke in a chorus of rebellion. Acting Commander Veshkal's final transmission was a masterpiece of tragic irony. We believed might made right. Earth proved that right, backed by unimaginable might, makes might irrelevant. Let our fall be the lesson our pride refused to learn. The Council passed the Earth Accord, recognizing the sovereign right of all species to defend their space. No one called it by its official name. Everyone called it the Chen Doctrine. Wars didn't end, but their nature changed. Aggression was now measured against a terrifying new metric. Not can we win, but is this worth possibly ceasing to exist? 5 years later, a young Zitharan officer named Krenel guided his corvette, New Dawn, to the very edge of the exclusion zone. Not to challenge, but to remember. On his screen, The human memorial station hung against the starfield. A simple plaque honoring the crew of the Cassandra. Next to it, a new monument stood, erected by the Zitharan Federation. A somber wall of metal engraved with 500,000 names. A hail chimed. A human face appeared on his screen. Lieutenant Sarah Kim, young, professional, her eyes holding a kindness that confused him. "I lost family here," Krenel confessed, the words feeling inadequate for the chasm of loss. "I know," Kim said softly. "So did we." Captain Torres was my instructor. She volunteered, hoping her sacrifice would be the final warning you'd heed. She paused. "Do you think it was justified, what we did?" Krenal had expected dogma, triumph. He found only profound, weary honesty. "I think it was a tragedy," Kim said. "But I also know galactic history. Weak species are consumed. We chose not to be weak. We chose to make the cost of testing us absolute. Your fleet paid that price, so 1,000 other fleets would never have to. I wish there had been another way, but the galaxy you knew left us none." The conversation ended. Krenal ordered his ship away. "She seemed decent," his veteran first officer muttered. "That is what terrifies me," Krenal replied, staring at the receding monuments. "It would be easier if they were monsters. They are not. They are just survivors who learned to build a wall out of the void itself. Decades flowed into centuries. The exclusion zone remained, a permanent scar and a permanent lesson." The memorials stood side by side, one for the last warning, one for those who ignored it. The galaxy learned to navigate around the silent region, its very presence a foundational truth of the new age. On Earth, in a quiet garden of reflection, a final, private monument listed not soldiers, but the scientists, engineers, and leaders who had built the net. The inscription read, "We did what we believed necessary to ensure survival. History will judge if we were right. We can only hope for a galaxy where such walls are never needed again. Until that day, we stand guard." And in the endless dark between the stars, the net hummed, a perpetual, silent witness. Ships from emerging civilizations would approach the boundary, their captains telling the old, cautionary tale. The story always ended the same way, with a gesture toward the ominous quiet and the two words that had rewritten history. Words now etched into the soul of every spacefaring species. A mantra for a wiser, more cautious galaxy. Stay out.